Добрый день, дорогие дамы и господа. Я предлагаю потихонечку начинать пленарную часть заседания нашей конференционной части конференции «Выставка МРО Россия и СНГ». Просьба взять наушники для удобства перевода. Очень кратко скажу, что у нас будет в ближайшее время происходить. Значит, сейчас у нас небольшое пленарное заседание, в 12:30 обед для экспонентов, в 14:00, с 14 до 15:00 торжественное подписание соглашения между вертолетным сервисным центром «Ситикоптер» и разработчиком программного обеспечения ABS System Group о внедрении системы Helistar и совместном расширении перечня типов ВС, поддержанной этой системой. С 2:10, с 14:10 до 15:10 обед для участников. С 15:10 серия специальных сессий зал А и пресс-зал. В 15:20 торжественная церемония подписания соглашения между S7 Techniques и САТР на поставку консигнационного склада материалов. В 17:30 до 18:10 церемония вручения премии МРО Раша и CIS. И в 6:10 и дальше у нас фуршет, завершающий работу первого дня нашей выставки и конференции. В этом году для всех спикеров конференции действует специальная зона спикерскона. Вот здесь находится, где можно обсудить с организаторами все аспекты выступления и вообще все организационные аспекты. Как всегда, я хочу поблагодарить наших многочисленных спонсоров, без которых, конечно же, такое мероприятие организовать было бы невозможно. Наши традиционные партнеры, крупнейшие организации по техническому обслуживанию и ремонту на территории России и окрестностей, это группа компаний «Люфтганза Техник», которая является ведущим мировым поставщиком услуг ТАИР в авиационной области, охватывает все спектры деятельности по ремонту и обслуживанию и поддержанию летной годности воздушных судов. Спектр услуг Люфтганза Техник, как вы все хорошо знаете, включает в себя обслуживание коммерческих воздушных судов и VIP воздушных судов, самолетов специального назначения, двигателей, компонентов, шасси. Трудно придумать, чего бы Люфтганза Техник не делала. Откровенный мировой лидер в этой области. Наша российская компания S7 Techniques, ведущий провайдер услуг ТАИР на российском рынке, выполняет услуги по базовому оперативному техническому обслуживанию ВС производства Boeing, Airbus, Embraer, ГСС, ремонт, инжиниринг, производство компонентов для основных типов воздушных судов, а также новое на нашем рынке – это работы по двигателем семейства CFM56. S7 Techniques на своих производственных площадках обслуживает авиакомпании России. Это S7 Airlines, группа Аэрофлот, ЮТЭЙР, Уральские авиалинии и другие, а также стран Европы, Азии и Ближнего Востока, выполняя для своих клиентов более сотни тяжелых форм ТО и свыше 1000 легких форм ТО. Мы благодарим за спонсорскую поддержку TP Aerospace, ведущий поставщиков колес и тормозов на рынке неоригинальных запасных частей. Сегодня TP Aerospace располагает самым большим на рынке складом готовых к использованию запчастей. Делая акцент на конкретном узкоспециализированном секторе рынка, компания предлагает всем коммерческим чартерным и грузовым операторам разумную альтернативу традиционному управлению компонентами. САТР – мировой лидер в сфере послепродажного обслуживания коммерческих аэрокосмических судов. Компания занимается поддержкой полного жизненного цикла ВС, предлагаю комплексное интегрированное портфолио гибких, обеспечивающих максимальное повышение эффективности продуктов, услуг и специализированных модулей поддержки в области управления материально-техническим обеспечением на всех платформах. Zero Flight Support – международный поставщик авиазапчастей, многоязыковый штат опытных авиационных профессионалов, сильная ориентация на поддержку клиентов обеспечивает круглосуточное обслуживание высокого международного уровня. Соответствие строгим требованиям авиакомпаний и аккредитация в рамках системы качества делает компанию надежным поставщиком для авиакомпаний и организаций ТАИР по всему миру. Тулпар Техник и авиакомпания Тулпар Air – две организации, которые на протяжении уже многих лет принимают участие в нашем мероприятии. Тулпар Техник – это независимый провайдер услуг по техническому обслуживанию авиационной техники отечественного и иностранного производства. Первый в России СНГ авторизованный центр обслуживания бомбардье для коммерческих и бизнес-воздушных судов. Официальный дилер Collins Aerospace в России. Авиакомпания Тулпар, естественно, является крупнейшим оператором деловой авиации в России и СНГ, обладает коммерческими сертификациями по работе с авиацией общего назначения, выполняет перевозки на современных воздушных судах Bombardier, Airbus Helicopters, Leonardo Helicopters, предоставляет услуги по комплексному управлению воздушными судами и эксплуатации в частных и коммерческих целях. Следующий спонсор наш – это PowerJet, совместное предприятие между российским ПАО, называется теперь ПАО ДК «Сатурн», и Safran Aircraft Engines, французской компании. С 2004 года это совместное предприятие работает, поставляет двигатели САМ-146 для самолетов «Сухой Суперджет». Обеспечивает поддержку заказчиков в режиме 24/7, техническое обслуживание. Ну и, наконец, последнее по списку, но не по важности, это замечательная логистическая компания Küchenagel Group немецкая, которая замечательно обеспечивает логистические решения для организации авиакосмического сектора и использует для этого морской, воздушный, наземный фрахт, складскую логистику мирового класса. В общем, замечательная немецкая логистическая компания, которая помогает всем эффективно работать в области материально-технического обеспечения, ремонта и технического обслуживания, поддержания летной годности воздушных судов. Так, это я закончил. Еще раз благодарю всех спонсоров, потому что без них действительно мы бы никогда такое масштабное и качественное мероприятие сделать не смогли. Хочу сказать буквально пару слов от себя по поводу нашего мероприятия, которое проходит в удивительные совершенно дни, когда радикально меняется вся конфигурация рынка воздушного транспорта мирового, ну и, как следствие, рынка работы инженерно-авиационных служб, рынка технического обслуживания, поддержания летной годности и ремонта воздушных судов. Вот. Благодаря действительно энергичным, решительным действиям российских нефтяников у нас теперь дешевая нефть, очевидно, на достаточно длительный период. Мы же хотели, чтобы топливо было дешевое, да, вот оно теперь будет дешевое. Мы хотели, чтобы было много дешевых самолетов. Очевидно, будет много дешевых самолетов. Нет ни малейшего сомнения в том, что авиакомпании, конечно, используют текущую ситуацию в качестве предлога, и поставки новых самолетов будут откладываться на неопределенно длинный срок, тем более, что американская корпорация Boeing замечательно всячески способствует этому в узкофюзеляжном сегменте. Это означает массу разных следствий и для нас, и для локального рынка в России. Получается, что мы получаем колоссальные преимущества в области технического обслуживания, потому что
in the MRO sector because the Chinese market will be closed for a while. No one knows for how long. On the contrary, Russia is open. Our workforce is becoming cheaper suddenly, and in some circumstances we can have serious competitive advantages. Of course, it's very difficult to predict what is going to happen with the transport sector. Today, I heard it on the radio. There was a message from IATA that airlines will have $136 billion of lost revenue, which is more than the total profit of four largest companies last year, which was a record time profit, which means that there's an ongoing complete reconfiguration of the market. There is a plethora of new opportunities, and it's very interesting to see who will be able to use those opportunities. I think that we are having a great opportunity to forecast what is going to happen in this new paradigm, which is really completely new. So I think that those people who gave in to panic and did not come, there are few of them, but there are some of such people, but I think it was a mistake on their part. I wish everyone fruitful work, and there will be a lot of interesting subjects to discuss right now. And now I will give the floor to Mr. Valery Kudinov, the Federal Air Transport Agency, Rosaviatia. Valery, you have the floor. Good morning, dear colleagues. I would like to welcome you on behalf of the Russian Aviation Authority, Rosaviatia. I welcome all the participants and organizers of the 15th International Conference and Exhibition, MRO Russia and CIS. Thank you very much for the invitation to participate in this conference. Just 2 years ago, we had a very big holiday, a very important holiday, Women's International Day, and I would like to wish all the best to our dear ladies. Congratulations on the International Women's Day. I wish you a lot of nice days. Please be in a great mood, and I hope that all your wishes will come true as frequently as possible. I hope that all your loved ones will pay a lot of attention to you, and please have all the best. Right now, we are living at an interesting time. We are having changes in the regulatory industry. There is a transfer of authority from the Governing Committee to other regulators, to Rosaviatia, or the Russian Aviation Authority, and the Russian Aviation Authority, or Rosaviatia, has now faced a lot of issues which were previously ignored. This concerns issues of maintenance and repair of aviation equipment, and Rosaviatia is trying to resolve those issues right now. The issues touched upon at this conference include systems for safety control on this market. Right now, the competition is becoming harder, and those can win this competition who will provide better services for less money and within less time. And we need specialized IT solutions in the MRO market. Recently, we had an exhibition conducted by Rosaviatia. Some of you were present there, and one of the issues raised concerned digitalization. And S7 Techniques told us a lot about this and emphasized a lot of interesting points. I believe that in the future we will need a larger program concerning this area. And we also need to implement digitalization in our MRO systems. I think this is the right decision because right now paper documents take a lot of place and we spend a lot of time on them, so we really need to implement paperless solutions. I looked at our program right now and I can see that a lot of attention is given to MRO organization both in Russia and in the world. The Russian president also signed a decree on improving the conditions in the Far East of Russia, and according to this decree, new MRO centers as well as spare part warehouses will be opened in Russia's Far East. It was recently mentioned that we are to expect changes in many areas, and on the 6th of March, Alexander Neradko, Rosaviatsia's head, was assigned as first deputy minister of the Russian Ministry of Transport. I think this is a positive trend because what we are now facing in terms of regulatory provision will result in further advance in this area. I wish everyone here fruitful work, great health, a lot of success. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. And now I would like to give the floor to my colleague, Alexei Sinitsky. He will tell us about the trends of the Russian MRO market trends. That's going to be interesting. Alexei, you have the floor.
I'll switch to Russian, but my presentation is in English, so it will be easy for you. Ну, еще раз, здравствуйте. Разумеется,
Hello. Of course, doing an analysis and forecast of a market when this market is changing dramatically is a difficult matter, but we are going to have a look at what has happened at least. We have prepared this presentation together with leading experts from the High School of Economics, that's Andrei Kramarenko. We were supposed to make this presentation together, but he is absent right now. And the reason why he is absent is not a result of any of the problems. His schedule did not allow him to come. And actually, since he is not absent for a good reason, it's even better because there are too many good reasons at this moment. This is the contents of the presentation. It's just a formality. I will not talk about it for a long time. We are going to review the outcomes of this year, where we are at the beginning of this year, how it is going to continue, and what to do next. This is some reference data. I will share these slides with you. Here are some of the main outcomes of the year, and it's important to emphasize that in 2019 we had an increase in terms of available seat kilometers on the market, as well as in terms of revenues, an increase of more than 12%. There was a slight decline in cargo traffic, And you can also see the passenger load factor, which was at the same level, and the commercial factor decreased a little bit.
And here you can see the phases of this big way. What is actually important to point out here, we can see a very stable growth here, except for the time from 2014 down to 2016. And if we look at this situation, taking into account the current conditions, because there was a very strong ruble devaluation within that period of time, but however we had a very significant growth in domestic traffic, that's the green bars, but international traffic, which is the blue bars, decreased significantly, and then they started growing up again, and they would keep growing if the current situation didn't happen. What is actually worth mentioning, last year was also pretty nice, and this chart shows you the profitability, the ROI for the airlines, the black ones when the airlines were above zero, and the red ones when the airlines were below zero. Most of the airlines who were actually on the negative side. And this curve shows you the increase in fleet in 2015, where we had the peak of the crisis. We had significant decrease in the fleet, and we had also significant increase in the fleet in 2016, 2017, and in 2019 we did see the capacity growth of approximately 5.1%, was very in line with the market situation, something what we used to discuss a couple of years ago about the capacity discipline. So the airlines didn't really need to bring more capacities in the market in order to attract the passengers. Now this period has actually arrived. And this slide shows you that the financial results for 2019 are not completely recorded or presented, but all the big airlines had quite a good time. And here you can see here the average cost. You can see the average cost of one passenger transportation for 1,000 kilometers, and the blue line is in current prices, and it is going up. And this is the data of the Russian Authority of Statistics, and I copied this data from the Association of Air Transport Operators. I would like to thank this organization for doing a really great and very useful job. And the red curve shows you the same in rubles at the 2010 year exchange rate. But if we're really still counting in the 2010 year exchange rate, our rates are usually here going down, so they were below, our growth rates were below the inflation rate. So we had an increase in capacity in fleet of 5%, and the rates, the fares increased by approximately 10%. We also had a significant governmental support measures, and I also will talk about them later, what also had a very good impact on the industry. And here, what can I say here now? If you look at the blue bars, this is the fuel price as a very important factor, and we also saw a significant growth in 2018, and the promised compensation of approximately 20 billion rubles was not given to the Russian airlines, because the mechanism how to share this money, how to split this money was not agreed. That's why this compensation was not paid out by the government. And the red line is the ruble to US dollar exchange rate. We can see significant growth between 2014 to 2016, where we had a significant decrease of traffic, and now we're currently probably at the top of very strong growth, and probably this data are not really significant carrier of coronavirus, because 99% commonality to human strains of coronaviruses. That's a pangolin. And that was actually a stage of phase 1. The second stage was something what happened with the OPEC plus agreement, what happened to the oil market as a whole. And these two events, and plus the political situation and some regional tensions in Syria and other parts of the world, they can be really a trigger for new crisis. And if you look at this chart from the financial industry, and this is the S&P 500 real index, that's a yellow curve. This is the current index, and you can, if you look at the dotted line, that is a long-term trend, and here we can see that before these particular events, this is the S&P 500 real index was by 300%, well, 150% higher than the long-term exponential growth trend, so the market was overheated. If we can compare this situation, it can be compared with the Great Depression of the 20th century, when the market was bouncing down, and now when the market was overheated. So we can expect here not a Great Depression, but a very significant correction. What does it mean for Russia? The situation looks really interesting for us, because the crisis of 2008, we had the city when the oil price was growing. The 2014 crisis was in the conditions when the ruble was devaluating, but the oil price was pretty stable. But now we are looking at the falling oil price. We probably already heard that the Russian Ministry of Finance said that the National Welfare Fund would be enough for the upcoming 6 to 10 years in order to support the budgetary expenses. And I think this statement is very optimistic, but as we saw in the past, and the civil aviation is probably not within the top priorities for the governmental support. That's why there is a big question mark how much of this support the civil aviation in Russia is going to get. And everything what is happening now, it looks really worse what we saw in 2008 and 2014, because in 2008 we started a very complicated migration and fleet renewing. So we started using more fuel efficient aircraft, and this process took several years, and the market really managed to adopt the new conditions. It was a good fundament for the further growth. In 2014 there was a very good support measure, which was the decrease of VAT rate down to 10% for domestic routes. It also generated additional 25-30 billion rubles, and the other governmental support measures also helped us to start the recovering growth at that time. In 2020 we do see the weakening ruble and the coronavirus, and they all lead to the situation that we are currently have a significant decrease in travel and leisure and business corporate traffic, and you as an audience is approve of it. And what Boris Rybak said about the low price of oil, it is certainly good, but if you really reward the budgetary rule for the aviation fuel, the aviation fuel goes up in price when the oil price goes up, what is quite logical, but when the oil price goes down, the aviation fuel goes up nevertheless, because the oil companies are trying actually to compensate their lost revenues from the external markets in the domestic market. What are the consequences? As for the airlines, so the hard currency revenues will go down significant and the expenses will go up. And you have to understand the 50% of expenses are nominated in hard currencies for Russian airlines, and something what is happening now will be very difficult for the airlines. Oh, and the airlines will also face a very difficult situation, especially in the Russian Far East, because the Russian Far East airports used to have a significant traffic from China. Now these airports became almost empty. And foreign airlines pay more to the Russian airports than the Russian airlines. So if the foreign airlines decide to leave the Russian airports, will certainly have a significant impact on the airport activity in Russia. First of all, I'd like to show you this chart. I also told you a little bit ago that the average capacity growth was about 5% last year. But if you look at the average growth, it was very different for different airlines, and you can see data for some of the airlines. So the airlines who used to do the charter flights now was involved in the leisure traffic. Some of the airlines really expected a very significant market growth of approximately 40% for this year, and they increased their fleet. Probably it is not their blame. We don't want to blame them, because the recovering growth we faced last year gave a significant hope that the growth in the domestic market with a certain dollar to ruble exchange rate stabilization can also generate an additional growth in the international market. We really expected more Chinese travelers and also more travelers on other routes, because it didn't happen. Now these airlines are facing a very difficult situation because they have an excessive capacity. You can see the situation with the threat to the international traffic, how much the Russian airlines lost of different events. In 2020, we already lost a significant traffic, and we also expect also decrease in traffic to Germany, Spain, France, and Turkey. So the total loss will be of approximately 40%. It is a real bounce down. So now we have an excessive fleet of some of the Russian airlines, and we also see that it's not possible to provide this particular fleet or aircraft to other airlines in the world. And then the question is, what do we need to deal with this particular excessive fleet? I can also, do you remember the Air Union Airlines, probably the biggest bankruptcy in 2008 and the Transair collapse of 2015? Where these excessive capacities can go? First of all, to the domestic routes. So in this case, we will keep facing price wars in the Russian market, and the airlines will have less revenue. There are still some niche markets. First of all, these are the Central Asian countries because they are developing very actively, and Uzbekistan started carrying out a very interesting liberalization policy, which is very good. But however, there is a risk that this excessive capacity can go to this market, and these markets can be really start bouncing down. And we also shouldn't exclude the situation that some of the airlines can really go bust and will leave the market, what will certainly have a very negative impact on the whole industry. Certainly, this excessive capacities in Russia will certainly have a very bad impact, not only on the Russian airlines, but also for the Central Asian airlines and Belarus and the other countries which are currently to protect their markets. They will become stronger. As for the MRO market, because the whole situation became very vulnerable and unstable, now we can see that we used to see some risks in the past, and now we have new risks. First of all, that is the growing competition with the OEMs, because the OEMs are trying to get even more job in the MRO market. Now we have traditional niches which became quite saturated, and I'm talking about the airframe line and base maintenance. Here we could expect a small growth, but it was before this crisis, but the profitability was very close to zero, and now we can understand because the manufacturing wait now, because some of the MRO organizations decided to close their doors. Now we can expect an additional demand which will be spread among the existing MRO organizations in this part of the world. However, there are other narrow niches. They are usually high-tech niches. This is the engine and repair and composites. However, here we need dozens of millions of dollars in order to enter this market, and not all Russian MRO organizations are able to enter this market and to do this kind of repairs. On the other hand, the Russian ruble will be devaluated, so we will be able to provide very cheap service for very simple works, but we won't be able to provide any high-tech and highly qualified service because we don't have enough finance in order to enter this high-tech market. And if an airline has more than 50 aircraft, it is more profitable to outsource the maintenance and repair to third parties, but many Russian airlines also are trying to keep the MRO activities under their control, so the airlines in this case bear additional expenses and costs, and the MRO organizations are facing this situation because the market is not really growing very much due to the competition from the airlines, MROs, and certainly the weak ruble will make us more competitive in cheap works, but as for the expensive works, here we're probably not really competitive. And what is going to be in the future? What would I add here? There is no universal recipe. If I had such a recipe, we would certainly use it.
Of course, we need to raise efficiency and launch new technologies. We need to complete digitalization and digital transformation. We need to develop predictive and preventive maintenance as well as human capital and open up new horizons. But most importantly, We are having this conference and exhibition right now. We are here together and we can talk between each other. And this is how we can understand what to do next, because the situation has become quite unpredictable. Here I'm going to finish. If you have any questions, I'm ready to answer them. Thank you, Alexei. Any questions, please? Yes, please. Good afternoon. Please introduce yourself. My name is Andrei Bandrakov, director of the Moscow Aviation Institute, which is a well-known institute in Russia. We are looking forward into the future as well. Thank you for mentioning digitalization and raising efficiency. But what about regulatory framework, which was mentioned today? Because new digitalization technologies are not supported by the regulatory framework. And our European colleagues already accepted and adopted a roadmap for implementing artificial intelligence. And without any regulatory acts and framework, it's just empty talk. Thank you. Thank you for your question, and indeed it's a valuable comment, because of course we need to develop our legislative framework, but as for digitalization, it's particularly important, because this is what we see in other sectors. The entire digitalization is best of all happening and is the most successful in the classical IT industry, because initially there was no regulation of this industry in Russia or elsewhere in the world, and thanks to that government regulation, or the lack of it, there are huge IT giants, and right now they are forming some kind of legislative framework. The aviation is on the contrary, on the opposite part of this spectrum, because of course there is a lot of legislation. It's over-regulated. It's hard to find an industry or a sector which would be regulated to the same extent. Recently we talked about the pilots' laptops, and it's also, well, there is also a need to write a certificate, and we need to certify different aspects of this work, because it is the equipment which can be connected, but even the USB cable needs to be certified or registered, even though it seems to be a small thing. And globally speaking, the implementation of AI, transition to paperless documents. Well, Aeroflot and other airlines, including S7, are trying to heroically move forward to the digital sphere. But this transition is something that we are struggling to complete, even though it's crucial. Of course, the prospects promised by digitalization are great. And on the one hand, there is AI, which shows to us what needs to be done. But in the near future, it is not only AI, but some other technologies. For example, it's when an engineer comes up to an airplane, and instead of a thick book in paper, he has a tablet which shows him what needs to be done, and there is a digital signature, and everything needs to be signed digitally. And of course, it's also a very important area of improvement. In other jurisdictions, there are few things that have been done here. But in our sector, in Russia, a lot has to be done, and it's indeed an important topic. Are there any other questions? Thank you, Alexei. Let's move on. Our next presentation is about the history of forming a single regulatory framework of EASA. And I give the floor to Ricardo Genova, Ex-Flight Standards Director, EASA.
Dobrý den. Большое спасибо.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
I prepared a presentation that is structured, if I am able to advance the... Tell me how this works. Okay, thank you. So I have structured my presentation in this way. First, I will show you the evolution of the idea that led to the creation of EASA. Then some hints on the philosophy behind the EASA regulations, the way in which the regulations are prepared. This will follow by the activities of EASA out of the European Union. And finally, I will review some hot issues you have had with EASA regulations in the recent years. 70 years ago, when the integration of Europe was in its infancy, the European Council realized that having an integrated economic area requested some sort of harmonization, some sort of coordination of the means of transport. And in the 1950s, it was launched the idea to create a body to take care of these issues. This idea, as often happens, was launched when the system was not mature to accept it. And in the coming years, some agreements were reached, mostly in the airworthiness domain, to facilitate the free flow of spare parts within Europe. This was running through these years, but the magnitude of the problem was not evident until 1968. In 1968, the program of the Airbus 300 was launched, and it was clear at that moment that no pan-European project could success if there were several certifying authorities, and in fact, for the A300 project, there was an agreement signed between the United Kingdom, France, and Germany for mutual acceptance of their certification criteria. This idea led to the creation in 1970 of the Joint Airworthiness Authorities. This authority was in charge of airworthiness harmonization among its member countries, and it was gradually evolving, taking on board more and more domains of aviation, and in the end it became the Joint Aviation Authorities. The membership of the JAA was not limited to members of the European Union. Many countries outside the Union were members of this, and when the European Union realized the need to have technical agencies, technical bodies to support its activities in different domains, obviously the JAA was a candidate, but there was a legal problem because countries outside the European Union could not serve for this purpose. So it was launched the idea in 1998 to create what was called at the time the European Aviation Safety Authority. In the years that this authority was prepared, the term authority was dropped, and in the end, in the 2002, it was it was published the regulation that created the European Aviation Safety Agency, which is one of the 29 agencies the European Union has that provide support in different technical domains. The agency started activities in 2003, and there was a transition period until 2006 in which the JAA was transferring to EASA what they did, and in the end, in 2006, the GAA closed and EASA started functioning, initially mostly with regulations that affected airworthiness. The activities of EASA are supported by what is called the basic regulation. Is a law, a regulation approved by the European Parliament, and provides EASA with the tools, with all EASA needs to carry out its activities. It put limits to the areas in which EASA may work. It publishes several mandates for the objectives of EASA, and I have highlighted in red the ones I considered more important. For one thing that is important in EASA is not an agency limited to work in the European domain. EASA is an agency that works globally. EASA works globally because one of the mandates is that EASA must take care of the safety of Europeans traveling by airplane. And Europeans travel by airplane not only in Europe, we travel by airplane everywhere. And when one European boards a flight in Fiji, the EASA must ensure that he is flying safely. And for this, 4 pillars have been set up, 2 in the airworthiness domain and 2 in operations, which are the European Air Safety List, the Black List. EASA works with the European Commission, providing technical expertise, working with them, making oversight of operators worldwide, and some of them do not comply with the basic safety requirements, not of EASA, of ICAO, and they are included in this list. The list is public, is published in the website of the Commission, and every European that wants to take care of himself when traveling by air may consult the list, and there it is, all the countries and operators that are not recommended by the European Commission. We have also the third country operations program. I think you are aware of this. This is a program to ensure that every operator operating in Europe complies with the same safety requirements that EASA requires for European operators. To pillars in the airworthiness domain. One is the bilateral agreements signed by the European Union, and for which EASA works as a technical body. These are agreements to ensure mutual recognition of certification activities between states. There are 3 of them presently signed by the European Commission, one with the US, another one with Brazil, and another one with Canada. And finally, European Certification Authority. EASA is not an authority, it's an agency, but all European states, all members of the European Union have delegated their responsibilities regarding certification in EASA. So instead of having 27 different certification authorities in Europe, we have one single authority, which is EASA, which acts representing the European states. This is some idea on how the regulations are organized. This is something that is in every legislation, be it in aviation or maritime, every legislation. We have what it's called hard and soft law. Hard law is a law that is binding and can be enforced in a court, and soft law is not binding, it's soft, as its name says. Just to give an idea, every regulation has sometimes the regulation tells you what you have to do and how you have to do this. Sometimes the how is left to is published as an option when a regulation says you should do this or you must do this. If the regulation says must, it's hard. If the regulation says should, it's soft. This is one revolution EASA is introducing in aeronautical regulations. Most regulations so far are mostly hard law, are regulations that tell you, the stakeholders, what you should do, how you should do things. This scenario for EASA is completely changing, and what EASA is doing now is EASA is recognizing that maintaining safety is a shared responsibility between the authority and between the stakeholders. For stakeholders, so far it has been very nice being in your offices, waiting for the authority to tell you what you should do. This is no longer happening in this way. Now EASA says, you know better than me. I am the authority. You know better than me what you have at home. You know better than me what are your problems. You know better than me what are the tools you have available to solve these problems. So tell me what you are going to do to solve them and come to comply with my requirements. I will tell you, we will work in this way. Tell me what are you going to do to do this. This is a complete change for both for authorities and for stakeholders. In the authorities, the inspector who went to your office with a checklist, checking yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, is gone. the job of inspectors will be, they will still use checklists, but their job will be more and more analytical. Inspectors in this new environment will have to be able to analyze facts, to build mental images of how one organization is functioning, how an organization is working, and this is a big effort for inspectors and for stakeholders as well, because in stakeholders you must have more expertise to be able to produce these soft laws that before were produced by the authorities. The rulemaking process of EASA is very, very user-friendly. It's a process in which EASA takes into consideration the opinions, the needs of the stakeholders. In the first stages of the rulemaking process, there is a shared interchange of ideas, of communications with industry bodies, with professional associations, with other authorities. When the regulation has been drafted before being sent to the Parliament to be approved, EASA opens a consultation process with the public, which people, not only Europeans, people from everywhere, may access their website and transmit their opinions on what is in this regulation, what should be changed, how this regulation is going to affect what I'm doing. So EASA takes this into account, and when all this is done, the regulation, if it is a hard regulation, is sent to the European Parliament to be approved. If it is a soft law, is signed by the executive director of EASA, and it is published. This is the body, the set of regulations that EASA publishes. They are all based on the basic regulation. As I told before, this provides the tools to elaborate these regulations. All the regulations are based in ICAO principles. EASA cannot go against the principles of ICAO, but EASA may add things to what ICAO requires. For example, in terms of air crew training, ICAO only considers that air crew are trained to operate an aircraft. EASA goes one step further, and EASA considers that air crew training includes training to operate an aircraft and training to operate this aircraft in an operator, which is something, it seems a small difference, but it's very, very important, the difference. Also, for example, in terms of safety, now, for example, that safety management is being introduced in Part 145 organizations. Instead of defining a safety layer in the organization, as ICAO requires, what EASA does is EASA embodies safety in the whole organization, which is a very, very significant difference. Because if you establish only a layer to take care of safety, you have always to be aware that this layer is there, and in the end, sometimes you may forget and in the end this affects safety. In the vision of EASA, having safety embodied within the activities of an organization is the same as we do. For example, we are here, we're breathing, and we don't realize that we are breathing, but we are breathing. The real safety, the safety that is there, you are working, and you don't feel that you are working with safety, but it is there, and it is in all these processes. This is another difference between EASA and ICAO. Another characteristic of EASA is continuously evolving. EASA is in continuous contact with the industry, through industry bodies, through other international organizations, and is continuously adapting the basic regulations to the needs of the industry. A new basic regulation was published in 2018. Since the inception of EASA in 2003, this is the our third basic regulation. Each of these basic regulations take something new on board, and in the end, EASA, that started only with taking care of airworthiness, has been taking more and more things on board, and now covers the whole spectrum from satellites, ATM, aerodromes, and ANS, the whole spectrum. The last basic regulation established the European Aviation Safety Program, took care of aerodromes, ATM, and very important, created a European pool of aviation inspectors, created a European repository of information, established the basis with this for operators to have an European AOC. This is something that is not contemplated in the ICAO regulations. We have the ICAO regulations were developed in the late 40s, when aviation was completely different from the aviation we have now. Now we have operators in Europe, especially, that operate with different AOCs in different European countries. But they are a single commercial entity, and this sort of operations are not considered in ICAO. EASA is doing this. Now, operators may ask EASA to be their authority. EASA may provide them with their own AOC. This within Europe, this has no problem. Out of Europe, these have problems with the bilateral agreements for traffic, but this is a minor problem that may be solved with discussions between EASA and the countries that are involved. The global activities of EASA, as I said, provides support to the European Commission to sign the bilateral aviation safety agreements for mutual recognition of certifications. These programs establish systems for to avoid dual certifications, and it's not fully automatic, but almost. One certification in, for example, in Brazil is immediately accepted by European regulations. Same with Canada, same with the US. The agreements have established all the measures that should be taken to this in this regard when there are disagreements, and so everything is covered. And the agency has also working agreements. These are lower level than the bilateral agreements. These are signed directly by the agency, and they are signed mostly for technical reasons and to ensure the acceptance of European products in other countries. ICAO and EASA, I said before, ICAO does not take into account organizations like EASA, organizations that are not states. So in the face of ICAO, EASA doesn't exist. EASA exists only because of the authority that is delegated by the European authorities to EASA, for example, in certification. And as a result of this, EASA is subject to the UOSAP oversight of ICAO, but always the responsibility falls in the states. EASA is acting as an authority on their behalf, but in the end, the states are responsible, are the final responsibles for everything EASA is doing. So EASA has the ruling bodies organized so that the member states have a control of what EASA is doing. Some problems you have had with EASA in these recent years. Two problems: one with the licenses of maintenance personnel, and another one with the activities of Part 145 organizations. Regarding the licenses of maintenance personnel, initially there were differences between Russia and EASA regarding whether the Russian licenses were according to ICAO or not. This is solved, and your licenses are obviously fully ICAO compliant, and based on this, there is a mutual recognition of these certificates. I explain here the privileges that EASA provides to your personnel. Basically, the commonalities between Russian regulations and EASA regulations are immediately recognized. When there are privileges in the Russian regulation that are not accepted, that are not in the EASA regulation, these are discussed on a personal basis in each case, and the privileges that EASA provides that are not provided in the Russian regulations are never given by EASA to the Russian maintenance personnel. And the other issue was with the activities of Part 145 organizations. This and the service provided to aircraft that are not included in the EASA basic regulation. The basic regulation of EASA establishes of which aircraft EASA is responsible. I put it in the last line. State, for example, state aircraft, aircraft for search and rescue, aircraft registered out of the European Union operated by a non-communitary operator. All these aircraft are not taken into account in the basic regulation. So any activity performed by an organization working under Part 145 may not work with this aircraft. This immediately includes, for example, 320, for example, registered in Russia, is not covered by Part 145 because it is not it is not responsibility of EASA under its basic regulation. For EASA, airworthiness, anything regarding this aircraft is completely out of its scope. I put here this one. Yeah. These are the three cases that have been identified by EASA. This not only affects Russia, this affects even European countries. A member of EASA cannot provide services under Part 145 to, for example, to state aircraft. The case is if an organization has a Part 145 approval and is providing maintenance to one of these aircraft, this is not allowed. If an organization has if the state of registry provides an approval to this organization to perform this maintenance, no problem. The maintenance is provided according to this parallel authorization with this authorization number, not mixing with anything with the Part 145. If a state, for example, provides an organization with an approval and says, as a state, I recognize the activities of Part 145, and the organization, in this case, may provide the maintenance, but never using the EASA approval number as a reference. They have to use the number of the state. And this is as far as my presentation goes. I have included here several links for you. I think they are useful for this. They are all documents EASA has published regarding these issues with Part 145 organizations. They are, as I say, they are self-explanatory, and they provide all the information you may need. And now, thank you, and I open to your questions if you have.
Thank you. Thank you. Вопросы, пожалуйста.
Any questions, please?
Если вопросов...
If there are no questions, then we are moving on.
We will moving forward. И следующей темой нашего доклада будут инновации в ТАИРе, новые технологии, новые возможности. Наши швейцарские коллеги из компании...
The next topic is new technologies, new innovations in MRO. Unfortunately, our colleagues who are going to talk about it have not arrived, but nevertheless they can do this presentation remotely. So let's make use of these new technologies. As everyone is getting connected, I believe that you know this MRO software. This is a very popular software program today, and Aeroflot S7 UTR are using this program. It's one of the best software products in the world for MRO. Please, colleagues, you have the floor.
Okay. Maybe yes. Okay, good. Sorry about the technical difficulties. So my name is Lauren Gerhard, and my colleague
Zdeněk Jedlička.
are from Swiss Aviation Software. We have a few items to go through today regarding innovation and digitalization for aviation MRO IT. First, we will go through some concepts we think you need to deploy within your organization, and then we'll take a look at a few products that we are deploying. I hope everyone can see our screen and hear us well. Yes? Okay, so we'll continue. What's going on? So the first topic we'd like to talk about is people, processes, and passion. When we talk about these activities, we talk about 3 Ps, and the fourth one, of course, is the digital products themselves. So within people, we surveyed many models that are out there in the industry, and there is a people maturity model that's based upon the capability maturity model that's quite common. So we think it's important for every organization to assess where their people are when they begin doing innovation. Of course, innovation doesn't happen in a vacuum. People and their competency level is key to being successful in doing innovation and digitalization. So let's take a look at these levels from a concept point of view. We have the people maturity model. At the first level, you're able to do staffing and perform your production on a daily basis. As you build up your staff and become more mature, you become a managed organization. You can repeat your performance with regards to training, communication, and everyday activities. As you mature further, you become defined. You can manage your competency, work plan, planning, and career development for your staff. As we see, as you grow your organization, as you define competencies for your employees, you can begin doing predictable stages in your development. People begin to do mentoring of young employees, work groups are formed to make process improvements, and you now can start to measure your performance within your organization. The fifth level, as with all the capability models, is optimizing. At this point, your employees should be able to self-induce process improvements within the company, but of course, always aligned with your company objectives. So now let's take a little bit of time to talk about processes. You all have processes in your company, but how mature are your processes? Again, there's a capability model for this. We ask, how mature is your organization for innovation? Are you just starting the process? Are you just sticking your hand up out of the water to see what you can do with digitalization and innovation? Or are you fully mature and your company is walking on water? Let's take a look at these 5 levels. So this is the innovation maturity model. Quite common. You can search and take a look at this out on the internet as you like. The first level, if your company is not so mature in doing innovation, you may have a circumstance or one person that wants to do some innovation. They go off and do a project and it's maybe not measured, maybe not successful. This could be thought of as a chaotic stage. The second level is some awareness. Now your CEOs, your management is taking a look at innovation as a strategic approach, starting to standardize your processes to be able to do innovation on a daily basis. The third level is control. At this point, you've standardized your processes and you're now all able to see benefits generated by doing innovation and digitalization. The fourth level is called anticipatory, sometimes called predictive. In this level, you're able to have innovation as a core process in your daily business, and you're able to predict where you might have capabilities in performing innovation. The last level, of course, in these maturity models is optimize. Not only are you doing innovation, but innovation and digitalization becomes your product differentiator. So if you're an MRO or an airline on the market, if you are innovative and doing digital solutions, this can be your differentiator between category A or category B. So please strive to get to this level. Not many companies are at this level, but there are examples out in the industry of people doing optimized innovation. So to do this, of course, you need to continuously review your processes. This is standard logic in doing capability assessments. Do process assessments, look at your processes, find where you have problems, or areas that need improvement. This will allow you to understand your capabilities within your organization, define process improvement plans, feed all of this back into the continuous process review cycle. But more importantly, if we talk about innovation, perhaps you have 10 process improvement projects, 8 of them are for manual process improvements, but this process will enable you to find candidates for doing innovation and digitalization. So it's important to go through this on a daily basis. We know some of your companies have departments that are doing this. It's important to embed this in all levels of your organization. So that's a little bit about process. The last topic from a high-level perspective is to take a look at passion. Is your company passionate about change management, doing innovation, things like this? We talk about 3 core elements: learning, laboratory, and continuous improvement. So under learning is what's called a learning organization. And there's many characteristics of a learning organization. You see some references here, but it's very clear that to be able to learn and to build and grow upon improvements in your company, you need to hire curious people. People that are always looking for a better way to do things. And you as management need to reward continuous learning. So if you give people time to learn each week, reward them. Bring their meaning back into the organization. Give meaningful feedback. And of course, as management, CEOs, etc., you need to learn by example. Lead by example. In this case, not only should you go to conferences, read papers, do research, but you present this as well back to your teams. They will see you as a leader and they will follow. But again, it's not important to talk about what the solutions are, but how to get the solutions. So teach how, not what. Support risk-taking in your organization. Within limits, of course, within regulatory limits. But don't be afraid to fail on projects, and always cultivate a growth mindset. When we talk about failing, we talk about innovation projects, quick turns, things like this. Don't be afraid to give trial projects. Innovation lab. So many big companies in production, R&D, and things like this have innovation labs. Why not do this in your MRO organization? We ourselves at Swiss Aviation Software are building up a consulting innovation lab to be able to deliver a consulting knowledge to our partners. But why does it exist? Of course, you need to set out goals and objectives as an organization on why you're doing this. If you don't do that, then it's maybe seen as someone playing in the corner with a nice tool or something like this. So please make sure you have objectives and measure the people that are in the innovation labs to those objectives. Perform some trial projects. These projects do not need to be big and expensive. They can be small, innovative, and quickly done to get some return on investment. Build creative teams. Take your people that are creative in the organization and put them into a space together to come up with ideas that they can build. Of course, there are lots of methods to do innovation, brainstorming, things like this, design thinking. This is items that are depicted on the screen here. But it's important to have cross-functional masters. Do not just put people in the team that are good at one particular subject. They need to be masters of your whole end-to-end business process. And finally, it's very important, don't build a big innovation lab that doesn't fit within your organization. It should reflect how you do business today. If you try to build a lab or a team that's working on innovation and it doesn't fit into how you normally do business, it's likely to fail. Always look for quick wins, but keep in mind the long-term outlook in case you have failures. The last kind of concept slide before we go into the products is continuous improvement models. I think this is well known, the PDCA Deming cycle and the DMAIC cycle from Six Sigma. I won't go into these in detail, but it's important that you implement some of these models into your daily business and into your company culture. Some companies are already doing this. Others may need to take this task up to improve their processes and, of course, to become a mature organization. So let's take a look at some products that are out there. There are a lot of digital products out on the market. You can see the different categories that I have brought up on the screen. Things like digital twins and digital threads. There's a lot of articles about this and research being done. 3D printing, some of you are already doing this. Dronal inspection, blockchain, augmentation, wearables, analytics, IoT. In our presentation, we don't talk about these specifically, but if you build a digital innovation lab, go out and try some of these solutions on a trial basis and see what works. But again, you need to build up the correct team, capabilities, skill sets to be able to do this. Within Swiss Aviation Software, we have 3 products here that we'd like to talk about and give you some information. So AMOS Central is the first one. This is a collaboration platform between our customer base, so MROs, airlines, camo companies, etc., can subscribe to this service where data flows from one company to another on a subscriber basis all across the world on our digital platform. Basically, from a use case perspective, this is very high level, but one use case could be airline number 1 working with a camo that's managing their maintenance program, for instance, and the data flows between the various AMOS instances on the platform. Another example could be airline number 2 working with an MRO, and things like purchasing parts or work packages or whatever the case may be could flow across the platform. This platform features will be coming out towards the end of this year, so keep in mind, if you're an AMOS customer, to take a look at AMOS Central. The second digital solution that we'd like to review quickly is the digital work package cycle. So this product has been built according to Spec 2000, Chapter 18, specifically for the maintenance events. So the idea behind this is to eliminate data entry and paper flow from airline to MRO when you're doing a work package. So for instance, a C-check that's happening at one of your MRO providers, you transform from paper and data entry to sending all the records electronically via XML interfaces in a digital way. Okay, so this is our digital work package cycle depicted here. And the last topic for today is AMOS Mobile. My colleague will take over with a small review of the product. We could not do a live demo remotely. We had planned while being on site, but we will go through some slides now. It's important, though, people that have implemented have already saved an amount of time in performing maintenance via mobile packages. You can see that depicted on the screen.
I would like to start with a few questions. If we look at the picture of aircraft maintenance, how it was done many years back, and we ask ourselves how did we progress since that time? How far we are now? Did we implement the new technologies? Did we implement all the innovations that are available? My answer when I asked myself was no. So I perceive aviation industry as quite rigid, and I can even say fossilized. An example can be something which we see every time or most of the times we visit our customers, yeah? And we see that although the technology is available and can be used, somehow aviation still stick to the old way. So we like somehow papers and printing them out, sorting them out. So if you look at the picture, you see the typical case of production planning, old-fashioned process when people use this cascading wall-mounted board while the system is already available. So we assume that we need to also support changing of the mindset of people and moving from the paper-based processes to fully digital process. So this wall-mounted cascading crank can be easily replaced by the same activity done directly in the system and by production planners. So what you see is assigning people to the activities, to the tasks, and then technicians can right away display what was assigned to them using their mobile device. I want to demonstrate that the process is really very simple, efficient, and amazing using our Amos mobile system. So when, as a technician, I log in to Amos mobile system, I see this screen dashboard. So I check in aircraft I was assigned to, and I see the information I need. So from the previous screen, what was assigned to me, I see as assigned work. So I don't need to search for something, I just focus on what they want from me. And this is the detail, so I see that my airplane assigned to me for today's shift arrived, so it's ready. So I can go there and perform the work package which is assigned to me. And I see also how much time I have until next flight, which is also very essential information for me. So if I dive deep into the work package, I see that the work package contains daily check. Amos Mobile gives me also the possibility to assign work package or work that was not assigned to me by production planners, or as a shift leader, I can take over the work package and distribute the work to my people if it was not done in the Amos standard desktop version. So this is basically the job which replaces the paper-based process, the production, the cascading rack. If I look at the daily check itself, I see the work order. So I need to perform it according to the attached checklist. And I immediately start booking my time. So it's live booking, so you see it in the right upper corner. So of course I need to also check if the material which is needed is available. So I'm checking it and I see that I have 23 parts available in the main store, so no problem, I can request the parts. Which I'm doing by Pixlip. And now I can go ahead with the daily check itself. So for this, we use a PDF overlay functionality which we implemented. And I go directly into the checklist itself. And I see it, all the steps I need to perform. And I am performing one by one using the stamp functionality, which is, if you can see it, nothing else than the stamping which currently a lot of MRO organizations are using on the paper. So I perform everything I shall, and I have the possibility to sign the document, to sign the checklist electronically. using electronic signature. So I review what I am going to sign. So if all the steps were performed by me or by my colleagues, and I am signing. So in our system, it was configured that the electronic signature is protected by password, the certificate itself. You can call it PIN number if you want. And I have also the possibility to sign it with my hands, which is very good for better visibility. So also it's more pleasant for people to see that it's kind of old-fashioned signing as well. And I place the electronic signature where I want, or I leave it by default in the left upper corner. I finished the checklist, so I stopped the time booking, and as you can see, Amos automatically added the line saying that I spent 17 minutes doing that job. I can perform also the work order itself and close it. So whenever I perform action, Amos gives me the possibility what can I do next. So I select the closing of the work order. So I choose proper approval number, and again the system is configured that work order closure needs electronic signature. I review the work order, how it looks like, and I sign it electronically, as you could see before. And to demonstrate you, to show you how it looks like in reality, so we see the work order was closed with the change of red O to close C, closed. And here, in the bottom of the screen, we see a PDF which was automatically generated by the system and which correspond with this electronically signed document. So it's basically the document electronically signed. And if we open it, we see it, yeah? So in the closing sign field, there is something which looks like signature, and I zoom it out. So you see my handwritten signature, but also the wording that represents that it's not just the picture, it's really electronic certificate which is attached to the document. As I close the work order and nothing else exists in the work package, I am going to release it so that airplane can fly. And for releasing a work package, I again need to sign it because it can be, for example, done by another person. I don't have enough skills for it. And I am signing it again electronically. So I review the document before the signature. So looks okay to me. Daily check, hours, cycles, everything matches. And I am going to sign the field electronically. So my signature and work package released. Airplane can fly again. So I go back to my dashboard and I am checking, is there something else assigned to me? So there is no more work packages, no more work orders, task card. There is also nothing urgent assigned to me, which I see here. I check the information for the airplane. So I have still a few hours to go. So I want to be proactive myself. So I am going to check if there is something else I can perform on that airplane to contribute to better shape of it, better conditions. So I'm going to work order search Amos Mobile module, and I search for all the defects. So here I see the list of defects, so I can go through them, check, and I can fix some of them. So you could see that the process was very simple, yeah? Efficient if you compare it to paper-based, and it's absolutely equal because the electronic certificate is equal to handwritten signature on paper.
Thank you, Zdeněk. So we just have a couple more points to make to wrap up our presentation. So we talked about people, process, passion, and then finally some products. The key takeaways from you should be, don't just focus on the products, the shiny objects that are out there in the industry, but you need to take a look at your people, grow their competencies so that they can innovate, empower your workforce to make process improvements on a daily basis, to identify those areas where digitalization may make sense. Again, look at your processes, measure them, find out where your value streams have failures, and take those as candidates for improvement, innovation, and digitalization. Optimize, try to get to the highest level of maturity in these models. Again, passion. Your leadership should strive to be building a learning organization. And one of those ways to do it is via an innovation lab. And finally, it's quite important. We see people trying different solutions out in the industry, contacting us for integration points. But if you do not assess your processes and where it makes sense first, and then go out and find a solution, I think you're setting yourself up for failure. When you do find a process that you want to address with innovation, go out and do small trial projects. And finally, our last slide is, you should ask yourself, where do you want to be? These are quite common charts that you'll find out in the digitalization world. The Gartner hype cycle, the diffusion of innovations, they're overlaid here. You as an organization should ask yourself, do you want to be one of the innovators or early adopters, or will you wait until others do this? You should mitigate your risk by only doing small trials until you can prove out through your organization that innovation works. So it's important to build your organization to handle innovation and digitalization, but also to have very clear goals on what you want to do. That's all from Swiss Aviation Software. We're sorry we couldn't be there. I think we know the situation internationally these days. If you want to contact us, here's our email, amosprojects@swissas.com, and we can take some questions if there's time allowing for that.
Thank you very much for detailed presentation, and hopefully we will see you here next year. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I think if anybody has got any questions, they will write you, send you email or a message, something like that.
Okay, good.
Okay, and see you next year here. Bye. Мы продолжаем.
So we continue, and I would like to give the floor to Valery Okolov, and he will make a presentation to the topic from aircraft sales to service. Valery, you're welcome.
And see you hopefully next year.
See you next year. Goodbye. Bye.
Thank you very much, Boris.
Добрый день, уважаемые дамы и господа.
I don't want to talk about the first part of my presentation because as for the current industry situation, it was told you by Alexei Sinitsky, and you probably didn't list all the problems and challenges which are existing now, but nevertheless, those challenges we have in our industry, they usually lead to new strategies for all stakeholders, including MRO organizations. And the strategies should be different, but there are actually two basic strategies or two sets of strategies. Set number one, that's the business activity decrease, work on cost and expenses. And it could be called we need actually to survive during the spring, summer, and probably the fall. And the second set of strategies is mergers, acquisitions, and they are unavoidable, and the goal is actually to decrease the cost and expenses and to get new higher market positions. That's about all industries, not only about the transportation and not only about the MRO and after sale. In a year when we come here together, the landscape in our industrial picture will be absolutely different than today, and I do really hope it won't be a complete cut down forest, and I hope the landscape will be pictured not by those who are going to freeze their business activities right now, but by those who will keep promoting their services. And what should the OEMs do in this context in order to become or to be competitive in the market when the demand for aircraft is going down? First of all, we need to develop classic conventional tools of sales. We need actually to be better, that's an important thing. But if you like to be competitive, you need to do the service. The airlines, the operators need an aircraft not as a product. It needs services starting from the personnel or staff training, and is about this training of the technicians and engineers, but all down to the supply of parts. And I will tell you more how actually we can be more client oriented, and I think it can really help our OEMs to be closer to the real life, to the ground, to the sky, to the operators. This is our line of products. This is SSJ 100, which has been delivered to the market since 2011, and MS 21 we expect to deliver in 2022, and the Illusion 114-300, that's a regional turboprop. These are our plans for the future. We need to should not orient on the CIS market, but should orient on the global market, because the aviation industry is a global one. That's why we should be also globally oriented. As for the current conditions, everybody is changing. The attitude to the services, it is not enough to develop an aircraft in order to be competitive. It is important actually to support operators with recommendations, but also to all the MRO organizations. What are the criteria? They are very simple. You have to be 24/7 available. You need to provide the spare parts as soon as possible. You also need to provide the engineering and technological support, and so on. What is very important important actually to resolve the problem of lacking resources. Sometimes you don't have enough spare parts available, and also you don't have enough slots to service and maintain the aircraft in your stations. You should be also able to repair the parts as soon as possible. And you need also to have your measures should be also supported by finances. You also need to provide the full scope of after-sales support.
комплексного
It's also about comprehensive services, and the operator should not worry as to where to do those services. According to the service agreement, it's the MRO center affiliated with the OEM that will take care of all that. I would like to talk about some details regarding the after-sales service. This concerns provision of different logistical services, providing the spare parts. And within our company UAC, there are also divisions that ensure logistics services. For example, there is this division called Europart, which has been active for more than 1 year. And we are going to further develop a network of regional and local warehouses. MRO centers. Today, many companies have shortage of warehouse capacities and capacities for servicing the aircraft. So we started developing MRO centers network in the Moscow region. And after that, we are going to further expand our MRO centers. We sometimes build new ones, sometimes we modernize existing ones. Training and retraining of aviation personnel. Everyone understands that there is shortage of technical experts, and we are faced with the task of retraining personnel so that they can use new equipment, but we also need to establish a big center with different kinds of simulators with the necessary expertise to retrain aviation personnel. Corporate transformation within UAC. We have completed the joining of different branches. We have this GSS division, which is part of the ERCOT right now, and we are going to further develop working with the aircraft that I showed on the first slide. Within this division, there are different structures which are engaged with the maintenance, with warehouses, and there's also an MRO center in the Sheremetyevo airport, and then other centers will be open throughout the Russian Federation. And we also provide a service which is called Total Technical Support. This support is provided by MRO organizations, and this concerns total support with respect to continued airworthiness of aircraft within their whole life cycle. This concept includes all the aspects involving aircraft supply, for airbridge, preparation for the flights, and we need to have a fleet of extra aircraft which will be provided as the schedule demands. Information system. We can't actually do without IT systems. It has already been mentioned before by the previous speakers. And of course, we need a convenient web portal with a convenient navigation covering all the range of services to be provided, including retraining, continued airworthiness throughout the aircraft life cycle, and so on. Do we have money for that? Everything that I have mentioned, there is money available. Among other things, thanks to government support measures, which include the financing of operators and airlines for retraining of their air crew and technical experts. This also regards the provision of simulators, and such financing is provided for existing simulators as well. We also have a budget for 2020-2022. This concerns the full flight simulators and other kinds of simulators. Government support measures also cover the construction of hangar capacities across Russia and establishing warehouses for logistics services. There are also auxiliary power units, landing gears manufacturers who are not ignored by those measures. Those manufacturers should provide enough spare parts, and what is particularly important, it's necessary to do the maintenance and repair of those spare parts that were produced by those manufacturers. Of course, we need to introduce new technologies, and of course, all the market players should be active in this area and should have an interest there. Leasing companies also get the funding so that they can acquire aircraft, and after that, this aircraft is handed over to the operators, and such support measures enable lessors to provide aircraft on the market at ruble rates rather than dollar rates, which is particularly relevant today. And the most important cultural aspect here. This service-oriented, client-focused approach, is it possible in Russia? I can tell you with confidence that we have a very good example of positive experience of transforming our companies towards the client-oriented sector. One example is Aeroflot, that has been transformed from a Soviet-style company to a really client-oriented organization. And if we talk about other industries, such as retail or the banking industry, we are capable of implementing service-oriented and client-focused approaches. So service focus and client focus are being developed with success in Russia. Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? I did my best to be quick. My name is Oleg Hudolenko. I represent a helicopter company from Krasnodar. Valery, it seemed to me that you suggest creating a monopoly which would dominate on the MRO market. And all the operators of all those excellent aircraft would have to deal with this company. Am I right or am I wrong? Well, let's start with this question. I'm not talking of any kind of monopolization. I am just talking about overcoming this shortage which exists on the MRO market, as well as on the market of aviation training centers. Wherever you look, there's always a deficit or a shortage. And the manufacturers are the most interested party because they are really interested in developing market for all those services so that there are as many competitors and offers as possible in each of those sectors. This is why we have those government support measures. Those measures are not provided for any single company, UAC or any other company. These are government support measures for OEMs, for equipment providers. And those who provide those services will get those measures. We are interested in having as many market players as possible. But in today's situation, a merger or unification is a tool that is really needed. And for our activity, we need to involve those players who already have experience and competence on this market. I'm talking about Russian players, but not only Russian ones. Another question, if I may. Regarding this interactive guideline, are you going to create such a guideline? Interactive guideline for airworthiness. Well, we are talking about this same digitalization. A guideline that will be not on paper, an interactive guideline. Are you planning to create such a guideline? All right, that would be a guideline in a digital format. Are you talking about it? Yes. Of course, it is required right now, and it would be a very convenient manual for retraining personnel. Talking about retraining, this would be the best tool for it. It's also important to use digital tools when the engineers or the pilots have a digital tool with all the necessary information. Yes, it needs to be done. Thank you, Valery. Thank you very much. All right, and we are moving further. Sergei Hrustikov, head of technical services in components and interior design at 7 Techniques. You have the floor, Sergei. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. My name is Sergei Hrustikov, and I represent one of the leading providers of aircraft maintenance operators at 7 Techniques in Russia. At the beginning of this conference, the moderator gave a short description of our company. He talked about our goals, but I would like to emphasize that our company provides a lot of different services, including the maintenance of interiors in aircraft. Of course, aircraft interiors is the face of any airline. This is what the passenger interacts with most of all. We are working for the passenger, after all, and what is important for passenger is comfort, tidiness, and other things, because those passengers will have to sit in their seats during several hours of the flight. So we have a special department or special area within our company, and I would like to tell you what we do to keep up with the time and meet the requirements of our operators. Here you can see our company presence. We have a lot of branches across Russia, including the south of Russia, Russia's Far East, Siberia, and the center of Russia. We have a branch in Mineralnye Vody and Novosibirsk, where we have the main resources and the main facilities, including the facilities for interior maintenance. Each of those platforms has a full cycle possibility of interior maintenance. In each of these regions, each of our branches has a professional crew of engineers and technicians for interior maintenance. In each of those branches, you can have a lot of different maintenance services. This is our main interiors maintenance shop. This concerns different types of services, and along with this main interiors maintenance shop, we also have different divisions at our company, each of which has its own contribution and developed competences for specific interior services. I'm talking about the sewn shop, everything to deal with the fabric embroidery of the aircraft. I'm talking about the marking of the aircraft. We are also talking about different heaters, boilers, and other kitchen equipment. We also provide the maintenance of emergency equipment, and we have a relevant shop on all of our 3 platforms. And we also have a structure repair shop. We can't do without it. And in each of those shops, we have highly qualified, competent teams, and their common goal is to create a comfortable interior. Airlines keep changing plans because there are special circumstances, and sometimes when you service interiors, you need to change the cabin configuration of aircraft, and we provide a complete cycle of cabin modification with any degree of complexity. This concerns different documents that we provide, including design documentation. We also have Part 21J. We provide different approvals and implementation of all those concepts, certified by Part 145. Here we are talking about the full cycle of modification, implementation of the aircraft without involving any third parties. Our company has a lab which does the tests, the burning test and other tests. It provides certification for different types of equipment, soft equipment, plastic equipment, and it also implements all that on the aircraft. There is another service which is in high demand. I'm talking about cabin reconfiguration. And what we do here is the full cycle of reconfiguration. Airlines change plans. Today they need a business class department, and tomorrow they don't need business class, they need economy seats everywhere, and we do reconfiguration depending on what they need, and we do the full cycle of this reconfiguration.
Some years ago, any cabin configuration was a significant event for our company. The first reconfiguration of Boeing 737 or Airbus 321, that was a significant event for our company. Today, any cabin reconfiguration is a routine operation we perform with a certain preparation, and something what we do almost on an everyday basis. It's a standard work for us. Besides the reconfiguration, we also can do the full renew of the cabin. We can also change the carpets and the curtains. So today we really can do the full scope of works in a cabin, independing how difficult they are. It is not possible. It wouldn't be possible if we didn't go along with the progress. We also have support Part 21 AJ certification, so we'd like to be where the time spirit. We are currently digitalizing our production and install the state-of-the-art equipment. For example, this is our shop for manufacturing and the seat covers. Here we have also digitalizers and laser cutting machines, and also our staff able to work with this high-tech and high-precision equipment. This is something what the time requires from us and what the customers want from us, and we would like to be in line with these requirements. We also adopted a new technology. This is the eliminating of leather seat covers and the other leather products. So we procure the equipment, we train our staff, and we are currently working on this situation. It's also something what the time requires from us. Moreover, there is another service which is very demanded, and we are trying to use in our everyday practice. This is the laminating of the wall panels in the cabin, of the partitions and toilets. So we are working with the Savoy and Schneller companies, and they also give us very good consultation. They carry out master classes. And this technology is something what we have been using very successful, and it is really demanded at a certain service forms. It is not possible to do any cabin repair without doing the interior components maintenance under the C rating, because all the interior components installed in our aircraft usually maintained in our company in different locations. We here talk about the maintenance of the galley equipment. We maintain seats of pilots, passengers, and flight attendants. Together with the Safran company, we also do the full maintenance of the toilet systems, what is also very demanded by our operators. Another important part of our business is the recovery of the leather seat covers. We use new technologies. The modern materials of leading European manufacturers, and we have also some problems with the leather seat covers. Sometimes we need to recolor, repaint the seat covers, or actually do something against these cracks and stretches. And it is actually less costly than to buy new ones, and it also helps you to use these leather seat covers for additional 3 years. I think it is a very useful thing. That's why we're really deeply involved in this activity, and many operators we cooperate here are really interested in this kind of service we provide. Also the labeling, external and internal, and we can also do it in different modifications. We can also make a catalog of labels of these stickers. I think it is something what is within our scope of interest. Another area of activity is the redelivery forms, how to return an aircraft after the leasing back to the lessor, how the aircraft can be transferred from one operator to another one. Here we have a lot of questions. When we have this kind of service forms, we have also a lot of remarks from lessors to operators, and the state of cabin of interiors is a very critical topic during this kind of redelivery forms. And here we have actually a very significant experience in implementing these projects. First of all, we prepare the documentation, then we do the physical check and assessment of cabins, and down to the actual redelivery of the aircraft to the new operator or to a lessor. Usually a lessor or a new operator would like to have the cabin in a very new condition. Now we have also approaches how to be in line with these requirements. All the works I listed before are actually aimed at satisfying the customers. When we do these redelivery forms, when we did the first redelivery form, it was a significant event for us, but today we do 10 to 12 redelivery forms in a year. This service is demanded by the operators with this kind of requests. So we also are trying to develop. We also have new projects because we also would like to be in line with the time. And one of the probably biggest projects we're currently implementing is the manufacturing of PEU cushions for seats. It is actually something what we use as the seats in the aircraft on board. There is no other manufacturer of this kind of products in Russia, and I think it's a very ambitious project. However, we managed to pass almost all the approval stages, and we also ordered the equipment, and we expect this equipment to be delivered and to be commissioned before this fall. And since the next year we will be able to manufacture these PU foam cushions in order to substitute the old seats of our customers. These are the ambition plans we are currently implementing, and we are trying to implement in order to satisfy the customers and really want the passengers to fly on board with our customers, and they really should feel comfortable and soft. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much, Sergey, for this very interesting presentation. Do you have any questions? Thank you very much. We are going forward. We have one more presentations to go. This is the digital transformation impact on value and increase flight safety and maintenance efficiency. Prognose case and the presentation will be done by Artur Romov, who is the general manager for technical sales at Air France Industries, KLM Engineering and Maintenance. Artur, you have the floor. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
My company today, Air France Industries, KLM Engineering and Maintenance. And I'm going to tell you about our Prognose case. It's our predictive maintenance system, or shortly name of the presentation, the Prognose case. Just a second. How can I use the clicker? We wanted to share with you our experience and feedback on how the digital transformation of our MRO activities has created value for our flights and technical operations, and consequently, how it has contributed to strengthen our flight safety. The most prominent aspect of the digital transformation of the MRO business is the emergence of predictive maintenance, which has changed the way we perform maintenance on aircraft components, engines, and APUs. The predictive maintenance is successfully implemented in Air France KLM Group, and I'm going to share with you how we can benefit from it. Traditionally, the maintenance policy was based on a reactive approach. You remove the part when it has actually failed, and then you bear all expenses and consequences. You can see it as a red field on the screen. With appearing of health monitoring process, you become aware of the upcoming failure, but you still face with unscheduled removals. In particular, it is mentioned as a blue field on the screen. With predictive maintenance, the components are removed at the right time and on time, without causing any disruptions and with outcomes you can foresee and manage. It is exactly the green window. We want to give you a feedback of how the MRO digital transformation and the implementation of Prognose, our predictive maintenance solution, impact on everyday operation of airlines. Air France KLM has been one of the first airlines developed in-house predictive maintenance solution for more than 7 years ago. Many operational constraints of the Airbus A380 pushed our engineers to analyze and study details of root causes of some component failures, which caused delays and cancellations of our flights. It became possible by collecting and evaluating of big data analysis of signal transmitted by some of our line replaceable units, and developing mathematical models to detect trend and patterns associated with the likely failures. The case of A380 shown success, and since then, the predictive maintenance has been extended to other aircraft types, such as Airbus and Boeing, making us one of a few predictive maintenance operators with such a large scope. After aircraft arrival at the gate, the data such as DR, QR, and CR transmitted to the cloud, data hosting base. It is possible to be done by various options such as Wi-Fi, 4G, or physical transmission. Afterwards, data is automatically decoded in the required format. Prognose flight technical engineers apply algorithms, models, and statistical data to generate the results. These results are combined with ACARS reports by our engineering team to prepare the final report, so system can generate alerts and further necessary recommendations. Each of our customers have secured access to Prognose platform. Here you can see an example of our web platform. It is very user-friendly web portal, which is used by our MCC and health monitoring agents to follow alerts and recommendations of the system. You can apply different filters to sort information by alerts, attach chapters, or tail numbers, as well as to see identification of the subsystem failures, for example, pumps, valves, fuel gauges, and many others. The alert is described on the pop-up graphic. You can see it on the right-hand side and at the bottom of the slide, which is colored and interactive. So you need just to click on a necessary component to follow a correspondent problem. There is also a color code, obviously, available on the graphic. Green is normal, orange means it is generated, and red, the recommendation must be enforced. Engineering of Air France Industries KLM Engineering and Maintenance provides recommendations per alert and then follows up until technical solution is implemented and the case is closed. The system allows to keep background of each case and to record all interactions related to the case. So now I hope we will be able to show a short video which will clearly demonstrate our system prognosis predictive maintenance and give you more understanding how it works. Here you can see Air France A380 aircraft, which just landed in the airport. In the upper left corner, you could notice timer, which shows us that close to 20 minutes may be required to transfer all data collected and stored during the flight. After transmitting aircraft data to MCC for storage in a big data cluster, the predictive maintenance begins to work. Within a very short time, our program processed all necessary data through its algorithms and generate the report. Therefore, our MCC analyzed the results. Based on the prognosis feedback, we can see that attach chapters applicable for this particular type of aircraft are highlighted in colors. We can see the system identified the risks in the nose, landing gear, attach chapter 32. All other systems seems to be okay. Thanks to user-friendly prognosis interface, we can sort information and apply different types of filters. As I mentioned previously, attach chapters, tail numbers, alerts, and etc. There is also possibility to check the graphic, which is colored and interactive. So just one click allows us to use the correspondent problem to see, to see the correspondent problem and to provide additional information for your engineering. At the same moment, our engineering and MCC will prepare necessary recommendations to the customer in order to eliminate the issue. Prognosis is also available on such type of aircraft as Airbus 380, Airbus 350, 330, 320 family, and of course Boeing family, Boeing 747, 787, 777, and 737. Can we come back please to the presentation? Just a second. Yeah. There are meaningful values for your company to use prognosis system in terms of operations. The number of AUGs and minimum equipment list items impacted on your flight operation will be reduced. Based on your technical requirements, the various systems can be implemented and monitored by prognosis. An opportunity to increase quality of passenger service in regards to cabin, galley-related systems. By the way, our engineers already started their communication with OEMs of business class seats to implement more sensors, so we will be able to use prognosis for cabin items as well. Moreover, there are several values for your technical operation. It is decreasement of troubleshooting time and failure root cause identification. Based on accurate prediction, up to 50 flights ahead, there is a possibility to plan component replacement. Possibility to control main basket and number of spares. Prognos is a useful decision-making tool facilitating engineering and MCC operations. It does not require any specific IT infrastructure. The system is focused on the long-term improvement of the reliability, which means less unscheduled removals. There is a significant impact on maintenance repair cost based on time removals, so less damage before repair, and also a reduction of no fault found cases leads to savings in logistics and workshop troubleshooting. We secure and manage your data during the whole process of its analysis. Data management is a dedicated key point, and in order to straighten it, we continuously improve all processes. We help our customers to get up a separate web cloud applicable for their data only. Based on their preferences, we connect our system to only necessary part of their data. We safeguard our customers' data and restrict access. To track alerts and monitor recommendations, we store and use a secured web portal. I hope that after this presentation, some of you will be interested to try and implement this predictive maintenance in their operational flights. Then I'm glad to inform you that implementation is quite easy process as well. As it is required only web-based environment, we provide our customers with assistance necessary to set up the compilation process for further uploads. Pre-upload of 2 months set of historical data to validate the existing models and replicate failures. A few days of workshop and trainings with customers engineering. For smooth workflow process, we recommend to daily upload flight data on the dedicated database. All our customers receive alerts and recommendation supervision made by our engineering experts. We apply predictive maintenance to only those ATA chapters which caused the most of the problems to our customers. Our engineers work on a daily basis to constantly monitor and process data to generate alerts and recommendations. Prognos has a proven efficiency on Air France-KLM fleet, and we would like to share it with you. Flight delays and cancellations decrease up to 50%, as well as troubleshooting time divided by 2. So that demonstrates operational efficiency. Possibility to predict up to 50 flights in advance, and of course 100% accuracy, which means all predictive removals have been confirmed faulty by OEM or shops. Flight safety and reliability are essential advantages too. It is shown by minimum equipment list decreased by 50%. Overall, since Prognos implementation, we have more than 5 million euro savings, or up to 400,000 euro savings per tail. It depends on type of aircraft, of course. Herewith, I need to admit that my presentation is over. Thank you so much for your attention. And I would be glad to provide you all additional information if needed. Please do not hesitate to pass by our booth number 231. Thank you.
Спасибо большое. Очень впечатляющий доклад.
Thank you very much. It's a very impressive presentation. And indeed, you have a remarkable booth. So if you have any questions, you can ask them. Please introduce yourself. Please take another mic. That mic seems to be better. There's something wrong with this one as well. You need to switch it on. Now it works. I'm Vitaly Prokhorov from ERCOT. I have 2 questions. The first question: do you consider predictive maintenance as a replacement of scheduled or regular maintenance, which takes place today? So is it our future, predictive maintenance? And secondly, what systems are covered by this kind of maintenance, predictive maintenance? Mechanical systems or braille or onboard avionics systems? Vitaly, thank you for your question. I think I will not be able to answer whether we are planning to implement predictive maintenance everywhere instead of scheduled maintenance. But I can tell you with certainty that it's not the case. I think that predictive maintenance will be implemented because it will improve the level of technical service, but regular maintenance will not be excluded in aviation. To answer your second question, thank you for reminding me of the avionics components, because we do measure and analyze to the same extent the failures of avionics and non-avionics components. And if you are interested, we can help you with those aspects that you are interested in. Some of our customers would like us to focus on the avionics components to a greater extent, and then the avionics components will prevail. So your system enables us to change the algorithm based on the equipment installed on the aircraft. Yes, this is correct. And even if there are no sensors at some place, then we can still work with the manufacturer, for example, if we talk about the business class seats, and we can add the necessary sensors to measure all the parameters. And we can check that they work smoothly, and if there are some issues, then we will fine-tune those sensors. Thank you for your question. Thank you very much, Arthur. Colleagues, we will have a lot of interesting things to discuss in our next sessions. And now I suggest that we start our lunch, and then you will be able to choose those sessions that are of interest to you. Thank you very much.